Good morning and welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday. I am your host, Tracy Crosshorn. This is Wayne.
Good morning.
And Jeremy McGowan. He is with us today. We are so excited to be here. And, we do these talks because IT is ever changing. And we just want to make sure you have the latest and greatest information. And questions, if you have any, just put them down in the comments, or if you are catching the replay, you can put them in the comments still, and we'll get to you later. So, without further ado, Wayne, there are many privacy settings in Windows 10. What is something users should be aware of?
Yeah, there are lots of things in Windows. There's a couple I'll start off with. One is called ad tracking. And that's something that Windows 10 uses to build a profile on you of how you're browsing, where you're going, how are you using apps in the Windows apps. And they use this to give to advertisers so that now they can target ads to you. Now, there's a different schools of thoughts on this. I mean, some people like the idea of having targeted ads come to them. I personally am not one of those. But I've always been, and many people are, the school of thought of that information is now out of your control. And you have no idea where that information is going. So many people prefer not to do that. And it's easy to fix. You go into settings, you go into privacy, you go under general, and you just turn ad tracking off. It's a very quick thing to do, and then you can go search for things you want when you want to find ads. That's one. And another one is diagnostic data. It sounds harmless enough and important, and it is, but Windows 10 can also use that to gather a whole list of things. They can use it to gather websites that you're going to, how are you using applications. They say they do this to enhance your Windows 10 experience. There's actually a location in under settings and privacy and diagnostics where you have two choices. You have a full version that is the default. So more than likely when you go to look at it, it's there. And that's what offers the full tracking of how you're using Windows, what site you're going to, the whole 9 yards. There's also a basic version that just collects diagnostic data and settings and important information. Just select basic and you turn that feature off. So that's two of the things that everybody should be aware of.
Very good. Jeremy, what other important ones do you have?
Well, in addition to Windows, everybody's got a smartphone today. And within those smartphones, we all have our apps. We have our Google app, our Facebook app, our Instagram app, or whatever apps that we're using. And a lot of people don't realize that those apps capture your location data. That is something that can be turned off in the settings usually in the settings of the phone. You can choose which apps you share your location data with. But it's important to remember why these companies actually get your location data. It's because they want to know where you're going so they can show you ads. And they also take this data and they sell it to other marketing companies. And to a lot of people these days, that's a big question about is that an ethical thing to do in tracking people's location. So we like to tell people that to make sure that they're only sharing their location with the apps that they trust and on an as needed basis. Also, if you're inadvertently sharing your location with an app, it can be picked up by somebody else, and people can actually figure out where you or your family or other people are. For example, there was a case a couple years ago where people had stolen location data so they could break into people's homes. So they could figure out when people were not at their homes. So it is a touchy topic. I would recommend anybody who doesn't really need to be sharing their location data with any big company just to turn it off. It's a much better safe than sorry type of thing.
Absolutely. Wayne, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on what Jeremy's talking about is if you go into Windows 10 is your general app permissions. It's many times when you load an application, it will ask you questions of, okay, are you willing to share your camera and share your microphone, things of that nature. But there's a lot of things that Windows 10 provides access to, not just camera, microphone, location that Jeremy's talking about, files, videos, photos, all of these things. So I think kind of a eye-opening experience for me sometime back, and this is kind of the lean-in moment. Everybody should go into settings under privacy. There's a section called app permissions, and you can look and see, okay, what applications have access to your camera? What applications have access to your microphone, to your files, to your photos? And you're going to be surprised how much stuff has access to all of these things. And they're all buttons you can turn on and off. It's good to do a review of what these applications have access to and customize it to what they need and only what they need. Anything you want to add on to that, Jeremy?
Yeah. Everybody talks about big data, and that's really what big data really is. It's the selling of information or communications from, say, Google and Microsoft and Facebook to these data companies that take the data, and figure out how to reuse that for marketing stuff. So when people are seeing ads on their phone, when they were just, say, for a specific coffee maker, when they just happen to be talking about that coffee maker with their spouse, it's because sometimes the microphone on your phone is, and Facebook got sued and lost about this, is listening to you and your conversations to show you targeted ads. So in addition to your cameras and the other location data that you're showing with, like you said, on your PC, Wayne, but also on your phone, you want to limit access to the microphone for all of the apps on the phone.
Yeah, that's like Alexa at home.
Right.
That thing is, I don't know how many times we've looked over and we're having a conversation, famous conversation, that thing's just listening.
Oh,
and
we unplug her.
Yeah, so we do, but it's exactly the same thing.
It's kind of frightening anyway. Even from a guy who's been in IT his entire life, it's a little scary.
Yeah.
It is. It absolutely is.
It's very scary. Well, Jeremy, you get the last word on privacy. Anything else you want to share?
Sure. Especially now, with the way everything is going on in the world, and we were more mobile, I think, than ever before. But now everybody's remote. Hopefully things will come back to a little bit more normal soon. But whenever we're traveling, we're always using somebody else's Wi-Fi unless we have our own hotspot that we pay for. And a lot of times that Wi-Fi is open and unencrypted. And even a novice user can go out on the internet today and download some elementary, I will say, hacking tools, and put them up on a wireless network and steal people's passwords in a matter of minutes. So my advice to everybody is, if you're out traveling and you have to use your laptop for work, always try to utilize a VPN. A VPN is a virtual private network. We've talked about it a few times on here. We've deployed them for hundreds of users in the past few months just because of COVID. It is a secure method for your computer to talk to whatever resources it needs to on the internet. And then all that traffic is encrypted and protected, and then therefore cannot be stolen. So a word to the wise for everybody: if you're traveling, please, if you can, utilize the VPN. It is, it's very inexpensive. It's very easy to set up, and it provides a good level of protection that you can't get otherwise on public Wi-Fi.
That's a really good one. I remember a story a few years ago where this guy, and I want to say it was Dallas Fort Worth Airport, he went into the airport, he just sat down in a waiting area, set up a Wi-Fi, and left it open and free. And so people went and logged on, and he started hacking into their PCs.
Mm-hmm.
So that stuff really does happen.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
Yeah, it was just maybe 4 or 5 years ago that happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
So crazy stuff.
Yes.
That brings us up to my tip of the week. And I know we've talked about password management before, but we just had a situation with one of our customers, and we wanted to bring it to light, just to, it reinforced the importance of password management. So this employee had gotten fired and was disgruntled, and unfortunately had passwords to a lot of their lead generation apps and things like that, like Google AdWords and stuff. And so what he did was he shut the company out of those, and they did not have access to them anymore. So with our password management tool, you can specifically share which passwords you want your employees to have. You can also share whether or not they can see, like as the admin, you can share whether or not they can see what the actual password is. Plus, they can create their own on there as well. And then as the admin, you can shut them off if something happens. We need to they can no longer be with you.
Yeah.
So it just really, password management, we're going to discuss this again in the future because it is so important, and things happen, and you do get disgruntled employees, and God forbid, you don't want them to have access to a lot of your important data. So that is my tip. Do either one of you want to add anything?
Yeah, that was a really bad situation. They're a potential customer. They weren't a customer of ours. They were basically using somebody else, and they were left wide open on that. And they really were in a bad situation because they had no access to the Google AdWords, and many other lead generation. So having control of important passwords that you're for sites that your employees need to get to, but they don't need to know what the password is. And once they have it and they leave, now they still have to use it. So it's more and more important. But I think you're right. I think we should have another conversation about this in the future because it is so important to manage what employees have access to.
Yep. So, all righty. We are up to our questions, and I don't see any. So if y'all have any questions, just reach out, put something in the comments. If you catch the replay, they don't have to be about cybersecurity. They can be about anything. They can be about password management. They could be about the privacy stuff we talked about today.
Absolutely.
If you've watched one of our past videos, and you have questions, just, send us a message. We got you.
Yeah, well, it's important. Anything on privacy settings in Windows, if you just don't really know, reach out to us. We'll answer the question for you and help you out. There's a ton of stuff in there. In Windows 10 Macs, there's a lot of consideration in Macs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just reach out. We'll be glad to answer.
Very good. All right, Wayne, what's coming up next week?
Next week, we're going to dive into a subject we've talked about before in our cybersecurity series about email phishing and what it is and what to look for. That is the most commonly used technique for cyber criminals to hack into your system, and they're getting really, really good at it. And so we'll talk about some of the telltale signs, what to look for, and hopefully make everybody a little smarter and a little more aware. So please tune in.
All righty. Well, that is what we have for you this week. We are looking forward to seeing you next week with our email phishing. Until then, have a fabulous week, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye, everyone.